In business, confidence feels like everything, right? It's the rocket fuel. But what happens when that rocket fuel ignites at the worst possible moment? Today, we're going to dive into that razor-thin line between the self-belief you absolutely need and the kind of overconfidence that can be truly catastrophic.
So that's the big question, isn't it? When does that confidence, a leader's greatest strength, suddenly become their biggest weakness? How does it just flip? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about what I call the confidence paradox. It's this really tricky situation where the very success that builds you up is also kind of secretly setting a trap for you down the road. See, what we're really digging into here is a psychological trap. It's a sneaky cognitive distortion that has cost companies millions and tanked so many promising careers. And it all boils down to that powerful, but oh so deceptive, feeling of knowing you're right.
And there's actually a name for this whole process. Psychologists call it something pretty vivid. They call it climbing Mount Ignorance.
Now, the official scientific term for this is the Dunning-Kruger Effect. And what does that really mean? Well, to put it simply, it's that dangerous sweet spot where you know just enough to think you're an expert, but you don't know enough to realize how much you don't know. This right here is the engine that drives that whole illusion of certainty. And this image, wow, it just captures the idea perfectly, doesn't it? You've got this leader, feeling like they're on top of the world, standing on what feels like solid rock. But if you look closer, it's not rock at all. It's this incredibly fragile pedestal built on just a couple of early successes. So let's stick with that idea of Mount Ignorance. Imagine you're standing at the peak. The view looks great, right? It seems so clear. But what you can't see from up there is the absolutely massive, complex world of everything you don't know. It's all hidden just over the horizon of your own limited experience. So you might be wondering, how does this fragile pedestal even get built? Well, it usually starts with a big win, a product that takes off, a huge sale, and that feels like complete validation. Then you get what we call dangerous extrapolation. That's the belief that, hey, this one thing worked, so it's going to work for everything, everywhere. And while all that's happening, these tiny hidden crocs are starting to form. Things like market shifts or a new competitor popping up that you just don't see. And once you're standing up there on that shaky pedestal, well, there's really only one way to go, and it's down. Which brings us to the next part, the inevitable collapse. The crazy thing here is just how predictable this whole sequence of failure is. It's almost like gravity. It follows a clear four-step path. First, you have that lack of knowledge, the big blind spots. That ignorance then fuels this massive false confidence, which makes leaders just brush off expert advice. Then, of course, the bad decisions start to pile up and the financial losses mount. And finally, you hit the pitfall. The catastrophic failure that, honestly, almost everyone else could see coming a mile away. There's a term for this, too. It's called strategic blindness. And notice the key word there is blindness. It's not just about not knowing something. It's about actively choosing not to see. And this isn't just some abstract concept. Oh, no. This comes with a very real, very painful price tag. Okay, let's get real and talk numbers for a second. Get this, a staggering 67% of strategic initiatives fail. And the number one reason? You guessed it, overconfidence in those initial assumptions. And what does that failure actually cost? Well, for an average mid-sized company, we're talking about £2.4 million for a single bad strategic decision. And that's just the direct hit. It doesn't even touch on all the lost opportunities. And digging yourself out of that hole, it's not a quick fix. We're talking a median time of 18 months, a year and a half, just to get back to where you were before it all went wrong. So the takeaway here is pretty stark, right? This isn't just about some fuzzy idea of risk. This is about a real, hard, quantifiable cost. It's a direct drain on your money, your time, and your company's potential. And it all comes from that dangerous illusion of certainty. Okay, let me give you a classic case study of how this plays out. Picture this. A tech startup gets a huge break, goes viral on a single marketing platform. Success! But then, at month 3, the team starts raising red flags about being too dependent on that one platform. The founder just waves them off, says they're thinking small. Fast forward to month 6, the platform changes its algorithm. And what does the founder do? They double down on the old strategy. The result? By month 9, new customers have dropped by a staggering 89%.
The company's forced into a fire sale. Total collapse in just 9 months.
Okay, that's a pretty scary story. And if this kind of thing is so common, the big question is, how do you spot the danger before it's too late? Well, it all comes down to recognizing the warning signs.
And these warning signs tend to pop up in 2 main areas. First, you've got the leader's actual behavior. Are they starting to dismiss anyone who disagrees, making snap judgments without all the facts, blaming everyone else when things go wrong? And second, you can see it in the company culture itself. Does it feel like an echo chamber where only one opinion is allowed? Are people only paying attention to the data that supports what they already believe? And here's a big one. You get an expert exodus. That's when your smartest people start leaving because they're just sick and tired of not being listened to.
All right, we've seen the problem, we know the warning signs. Now for the part you've been waiting for. How do we actually escape this trap? What's the fix?
The key isn't to build a higher pedestal, it's to build a solid foundation of wisdom. So here are 4 practical things you can do. First, institutionalize dissent. Seriously, assign someone in every important meeting to be the devil's advocate. Their only job is to argue against the popular opinion. It forces everyone to look at the other side. Second, you have to actively hunt for evidence that you're wrong. Ask the question, what information out there would prove our entire strategy is a mistake? It feels weird, but it's crucial. Third, get diverse opinions. Talk to people outside your industry. They don't share your biases and can see the flaws you're blind to. And finally, and maybe most importantly, cultivate intellectual humility. Just accept that what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. Expertise has an expiration date.
So at the end of the day, look, the goal here isn't to become some kind of flawless, all-knowing leader. That's just not realistic. The real goal is to build systems, to create a culture that acts like a safety net that protects the entire organization from these very human, very predictable tendencies we all have. And that really leaves us with one final, powerful idea to think about. We live in a world that absolutely loves the appearance of certainty. But maybe, just maybe, the wisest thing a leader can ever say, and their greatest strategic advantage, is having the courage to just admit, I don't know.